Hello everyone, it's Tonya with Scribbles in Time. I am here today to film a video and kind of update you on what I've been up to. So I think it's been about 3 weeks ago now, a friend of mine, Dale at Not Too Shabby Chic on YouTube. She also has an Etsy. It's Dale's Not Too Shabby Chic, I believe, on Etsy. I'll post her links below, but Dale had went to an estate sale, is my understanding, and came across a bunch of 1800s photo albums. They had writing in them. Some had writing with, the owners and who they were presented to, and the dates in the 1800s. So anyway, she was very interested in the photos that were in them and the cabinet cards, and so she like made an offer on the whole lot, and she purchased these, and she reached out to me because the photo album covers she was not so interested in. So I immediately jumped on that situation, and I purchased a ton of photo album covers from her, and I have been diligently working on these ever since. I have had nights of insomnia because my brain has just been spinning with ideas. So there are large photo albums, there are small photo albums, there's even a couple of medium photo albums. Some of them she left cabinet cards in, but the majority of the photo albums were just literally falling apart in that they did not have spines on them. Most of them, the spines were gone. It was just like front and back covers. So I have had a blast creating journals out of them, and they were kind of a guilt-free project, and have been a guilt-free project because, as you know, I've mentioned many times before, I have a hard time taking things apart that are original and old, and these were already falling apart. So this has been right up my alley. And I actually, one of the ones I actually did a somewhat of a tutorial. I did it, obviously in stages. These were not cookie cutter projects at all. There was no way to work on one and do the same. Like, the journals were in different levels of needing repair. So it wasn't possible to do like an assembly line. I did do a lot of the signatures in an assembly line style, but once that was done, after that it was individual projects. So I tried to film, there was one in particular that I tried to film kind of a process of what I was doing. Most of it I was not actually doing on camera. I was just showing my processes of, ideas. And I went all the way through the entire creation with the concept of actually doing these up as kits and selling them off as kits, and including a lot of my stuff that I have, and that type of thing. But in that process, I did pick out what I felt like, if I remember correctly, I think I had 17 small journals, small photo albums, I think is where I was at. So I pulled out what, in my opinion, was the 11 worst of the worst covers. And I should say worst of the best because they were all awesome. But I did pull out 11 of the ones that I thought were in pretty tattered condition, and I created journals out of them. And then the ones that I felt like were in the best condition, I held on to do kits. And I'm not real sure if I'm going to move forward with kits or not. I'll kind of try to point out items that were going to be included in the kits, so that if anyone is interested, you can reach out to me. I'm going to link my email below. My email is scribblesintime@gmail.com, and I have kind of been leaning towards email for my routes of selling my products versus Etsy. Etsy takes me a lot of time, and I know I'm just kind of weird about that, but it takes me a lot of time to sit and post all the details of a journal when I'm just going to turn around and film all the details anyway. But and they also charge a fee, I should point that out, and I try to do my pricing based off of the items that I put into a journal. Of course, the time that I put into the journal, the expense of all the items. I do tend to use a lot of authentic antiques, and Anyway, so I do try to do my pricing based off of all of the expenses that go along with it, as well as my time. But the Etsy does charge the fee, and so I've tried to kind of move away from that a little bit. When I did these, my intentions had also been, once I decided to make photo album journals, I decided to do the collection on Etsy and kind of post them on Etsy. So I still might, but I figure I'll post the video, give anyone that wants one of these an opportunity to reach out to me through email, and maybe keep some of the fees down that way, and then pay through PayPal. And if that doesn't work, if I don't sell them, these will restock my Etsy shop, and that's fine too. My Etsy shop's been kind of, I haven't been putting a lot of journals in them. I did post, I think 2 of these in my Etsy, and they sold. Point being, the one that I did the tutorial on, it sold. You can go over to Dee at the Paper Drawer, and she does a flip through video of that one she purchased, and I will also put the link to her video under here. And I think that kind of summarizes everything pretty well. I'm sure that things will come up as I'm moving forward, but here's 4 of the photo album journals. Now, one of these is already sold, but I told the lady who bought this one that I would do a flip through of this one on the video, so I'm going to do it at the very tail end of the video, because this one is sold already. And the other thing I am going to do in this video is I'm going to actually give prices, and I know people don't normally do that, but since I am going to go through the avenue of, you know, putting my email below and letting people reach out to me through email, I figure it's just better if you already know what the pricing is versus reaching out to find out pricing and that kind of thing. Again, if these don't sell, they'll probably go in my Etsy, although I might gift one to my sister. But anyway, so yeah, I've got more. It's just these take a long time. Again, I have been working non-stop. I'm having to actually drill holes into the covers, which is another reason why I'm kind of hesitant about putting these out there as kits with the photo album covers in the kits, because these photo albums are constructed with wood, and I guess that's what they used back in the 1800s when they created these books. So they have wood in them, so you can't like punch holes through these to attach the spines and things like that like I normally do. You have to actually drill holes into the wood, which that's in my comfort zone. I'm able to do that. But anyway, so I don't know. I'm just kind of pulled in all directions on what my plans are, but I wanted to share the ideas with you. These photo albums were such a blessing to me because I love old stuff. These, some of them still had some cabinet cards in them and writing on them. And oh my goodness, I have spent so much time with these photo albums, and I'm going to probably finish up the remaining small ones, the remaining of the 11 that I had started, but then I'm also going to start on the medium and the large ones as well. And I have already started putting papers together, and I'm just in awe of them. I've pulled out ledgers from the 1800s that I've been collecting, and I'm using pages out of the 1800 ledgers. There's some in these books. So yeah, let's get started. And I've kind of got a ruler here that I will hold up as I go, and kind of give an approximate measurement with all the overhang. I'm not going to go into a lot of details on the exact measurements of the covers because all of them have overhang, and that's important to know. But we'll start with this one, and I am going to give prices. And because there are so many of these, I wasn't trying to come up with like names, although names were going through my mind as I work on them because I do tend to do a concept in my mind. But for the sake of these videos, I have just kind of gone with names of like materials, you know, like rust and metal and lace and leather and things like that. So for the sake of this video, these will be named with types of materials. So this particular one is called vintage. And I went more of a vintage style than a frilly style on this one. I have started working on one for myself, and I tend to lean towards more of a masculine style and not so much frilly stuff for mine, although I love the frilliness. But this is probably about the only overhang that you see that's actual lace It's like a crocheted lace, whereas with all the others, there's more of a overhang of like flowers and crochet doilies and lace and that kind of thing. Hopefully it'll be more evident as we do this flip through. But yeah, this one is just called Vintage. And with Vintage, the beauty of Vintage was Vintage had all of its studs, or whatever you want to call these. So these I had to, you know, learn to realize as I was going through this process, these actually go through the wooden cover, and they're very much like brads. So they go through the wooden covers and they come out underneath this paper and they bend kind of like a brad. So I would have to disassemble in order to connect my spines the way I wanted to, because these did not have spines on them. So in order to connect my spines, I would have to disassemble that to remove the brads and then reassemble it. So it was definitely a plastic surgery situation, but this one did have all of its brads, so that was awesome. It had, you know, 4 on the back. I did leather straps, and I used real leather, and this is like all kind of different little crochet doilies, lace, just all kind of things kind of clustered together and sewn as a spine there. Hidden stitches for the signatures, and then the 4 brads on the front. These journals have all been wiped down and cleaned, even though they're not going to look like it. They're going to look grungy. I love grungy. That's what I enjoy. But I did wipe down the dirt, because sometimes things like your inks and stains will not adhere to dirt. They'll end up wiping away with the dirt. So they've all been wiped down and cleaned, and then kind of re-grunged to cover up the bad spots. And if you've watched me before, you know I don't like to cover the corners. Now, there are times I do it for aesthetic reasons, like if I'm trying to tie in a look. But most of the time, if a cover is all banged up and dented, I'm okay with that. I think it's beautiful. I think it's part of the age and personality of the journal, so I'm okay with it. I like it. So the corners, I believe, on all of these have been left as is. Now, I did try to stain them up a little bit so that the wood and items underneath the leather of these would not, you know, just draw the eye away from the cover. But if you were to get one, you will feel that the corners are very worn, and I want that. That's part of what I like. So that pretty much shows you the cover. It's absolutely stunning. The clasp on all of these were broken over the many years. What we're coming up on, one of these were dated 1884. So we're coming up on, you know, close to 140 years in age on these. So yeah, over time things happen, which is just, again, part of the personality. But on this one, I use, so on all of mine for signatures, I use a waxed linen thread for stitching in signatures, and it's an Irish waxed linen thread, and so it's a very strong thread. So I just kind of tied this ring around this one that kind of coordinates with the metal, and I just kind of let that hang. And then hanging from the front signature is just this grungy piece of metal. I'm going to kind of explain some of this on this one, but the others are pretty, the pages are very similar in that I use ledger papers and handmade watercolor papers and things like that I've accumulated and I'm destashing on. So a lot of these, as I flip through, will just be the same types of pages. So zipper pull here on the top, and again, the metal pretty well matches on that. You can see this beautiful pin poking out from the top, all kind of tabs, which I'll show to you as we flip through. And then on the second and third signatures, I've left the pieces of the linen, waxed linen in there, so that if you want to attach more charms, there are so many opportunities of things that you can add to make these more personal to you. But yeah, as we open this up, I left the paper. I had to reattach the paper in here that was on the original album, because again, I had to remove these brads here. And then I used a beautiful fabric here in the center of the spine to overlap to connect the spine on, and it coordinates with that paper. This is watercolor paper here. It's been grunged up. Well, I mean, I didn't grunge it. It's handmade watercolor paper. So if I do up the kits, I've done up a lot of these wooden rulers, grunged them up, and I've used this one as a tab on this page. And this is writing paper. It's also handmade, not by me. I purchased this. And this is a piece of that ledger paper with a tab on it. A lot of these pages have writing, a lot of them are blank, and that's for you to add either photos or writing of your own. Now, Dale has a lot of the photos that came in these photo albums in her Etsy shop. I would really encourage you to check that out, because how cool would it be to get some of the photos that had come in all of these journals and actually add them back to their home, so to speak. So yeah, if you would want to check that out, you can go to Dale's Not 2 with the number 2 Shabby Chic on Etsy and start looking at all of her photos. I think she's even scanned some in so that as they sell, you can still get scans of them, and digital kits, but you can go back and add photos from these original photo albums, and I love that option. I love that. She gifted me a few of the photos with the purchase of these covers, so I plan on putting those in to mine because she gifted them to me. I'm kind of going to use those in mine, and it wasn't enough to spread out. I think all total I have about 75 photo album covers, so it was not enough to spread out amongst them all. This is some paper ruffle coming down the edge. Y'all, this adds such a beautiful accent. I did not make this. I can't take credit for it. I'm not sure. So Dee, my friend with the paper drawer, has made me some of these, and I've gotten those from her. And then Lynn at A Bit of Birdsong, I purchased some from her as well. So I'm not real sure where this came from. Lynn, I think, sold out of them, and I think she's intending to add some more to her shop eventually, but anyway, check her out as well. Yeah, and then I went through with all the cabinet cards and just kind of divvied them up, and there's going to be a bunch in the kits if I do sell the kits, if anyone's interested in that. And then I've put some in, I think there's 3-ish in all of the photo album journals, and this is just a handful of them, y'all. I have more I'm not quite finished with, but I am working on more. And if anyone's interested in purchasing, like I said, just email me, and then if they sell, I will post that below that they've sold. If they don't sell, I'll post them on my Etsy, which is ScribblesInTime on Etsy. This one actually has a little writing there on the bottom, that cabinet card, and I've hinged it with fabric. And I also want to point out that with my journals, any page that seems frail, I hinge down the centers of the paper with fabric so that they're secure and not going to crack and crumble. Even though you know how I feel about that if they do. Tear it out, glue it on a different page, and go in and add more. I'm all about adding flips in my journals, tucks, flips. This is a flip. Y'all, you'll see black paper all through these. This is original photo album paper out of one of the large journals, and I just love it. Some of them had the like little photo corners on them, and you can see where they glued pictures and that kind of thing. And so yeah, I tore these papers and like hinged them in on the pages, so that they kind of poke out as personality. And yeah, you'll see a lot of the black paper through here. And then, yeah, I'm just going to kind of flip through because we have several more, but I won't have to do a lot of talking on the others. These are some vintage, oh man, my mind just went blank, little index cards. And they're already self-grunged just because they're old. All of them, as I attached, I always try to leave a little space as a little pocket. The paper is very thin, even though it is hinged in the center. It is thin paper, so you're not going to be able to slide much into there, but you could slide a little secret note in there, or a photo, or you know, just a piece of paper that you're wanting to use. I think in some of them I attached some little bags that I got. I'll show that in one of the other videos, but they are amazing. Nope, that's not one. Oh, my desk is a mess. This has been a long project. Some grungy paper here with some crochet and a cameo. And I put, in mine, I put probably 25 of these pieces of tabs of paper poking out so that I can go in and attach things as pages. I didn't do that a lot in these because I don't know if that's too far outside of the box for, you know, for some people to like. I did it in mine. Yeah, it's just something I love to do. That way I can attach pages into mine. But if that's something you like to do, you can always tear a page down and then use the piece of page that's left to attach something of your own, if that's something that appeals to you. Now, there's opportunities to add tabs to all of these little flips. I didn't want to do too much and put too much time and items into these to drive the prices up. That's something I think you can personalize that yourself. Now here's the string that you can add a little charm to or snip it, or if you want to snip that off you can, or you can add a little strip of lace or trim right there and tie another knot before you snip it off, just to have a little accent piece of fabric. These I put in, and they would also be in the kits. These are some really old tabbed cards. You can see they have these little metal eyelet things in them, and I love them. The little tabs are actually indexed out, and I just love these. But they are perfect press boards, perfect size to put behind a page so that you can press down and write, and just perfect for poking out the side for personality. So these I didn't attach. I think I attached one in one of the journals. It may not even be one of the ones I'm showing right now, but most of these I've left so that you can move them around. This is an old car tag sticker. Love that. I put these on sideways so that the numbers show from the outside of the journals. I just think those are so cool. As far as number of pages, I think most of these, all of these have 3 signatures. I think most of them have a total of like 10 to 12 pages per signature. So then you have to count the double, you know, pages as they're folded, and then fronts and backs. So I'll let you do the math on that. I'm not going to go through and count all the pages as I am doing a flip through, and you can kind of get an idea of that yourself. So I have hinged this on. The hinges very tight. It will loosen up over time. Hinges to me are something that they start off tight, but as you work them, they do loosen up. This is an envelope with the metal topper so that you can fold it down and then bend the dog ears in on itself to keep the envelope closed. I didn't do that on any of them. I left them open. The envelopes are available to stick something in, and they would be included in the kits as well if we go that route. And I like that poking out through the top because it adds that little accent of color, and then it looks like a tab on the side. So this is coffee dyed paper, more of that handmade watercolor paper, coffee dyed. These are the Pinafore cards. These Pinafore cards were a game from the 1800s, and I stumbled across a huge box. There's probably 1,000 of them in the box, and they would be included in the kit. I would put one in all the kits, and these were reproductions of that game, but even these are vintage. These were a reproduction, if I remember correctly. I think they were done in the 1960s as a reproduction of a game from the 1800s, late 1800s, called Pinafore. And all of them have different pictures on the front. Sailors, ships, these vintage women, and they have like little names on the bottom. I don't know how that pertains to the game, but I love the back of the cards. I just love that. And so I've attached it with a little rusty paper clip, music paper, more of the ledger paper, the lined paper. This is the second signature here. You can see the beautiful fabric coming down in between them. That's also a perfect tuck spot to tuck something into. I tried to leave a little space between my signatures so that these have room to expand as you add stuff to your signature. And then this is a feather. I've stitched these inside of some like acetate, hinged them onto some of the black photo paper, and then hinged the photo paper onto a page. And so I believe all of these have a feather done in this way included in them. And I just more did that as an idea of something that you can do in yours. But then as I did one, I went ahead and did a bunch. This is a card tag. So These I purchased a while back, a long time ago, from someone, I don't remember where, it may have been on Etsy, but these are car tags, and I was going to include these in kits, but these were really expensive. These are, I kind of hoard these. I think I have probably a good 20 of them left, but I love them, and they are very expensive. If you do stumble across any, I would say snatch them up because they're not easy to find. And then I put a little piece of flour here because these are metal. I just wanted to, I mean, obviously it's still sharp. You want to be careful with it. I mean, it's not that sharp, but I would still want to be careful with it, not to, you know, poke yourself or anything. Not that it's that sharp, but anyway, that's not the cause of my band-aid, y'all. I have the driest hands. It's winter time, and if I don't put fake nails on to cover the tips of my fingers crack real bad. I've tried every product out there. The only thing that works for me is to actually have my nails done and put tips on my nails to shield the pads of my fingers. But I was in the throes of this project, and it's so hard for me to craft with tips on my nails. So I'm just kind of suffering through the horrible fingers. Just, I'm sorry for that. Please ignore them. But that one had such bad cracks, I didn't want it to show on camera. So I just went ahead and stuck a Band-Aid over it. So I apologize for that. I know that's not, you know, it is what it is. Crunchy paper. Parchment paper that's been coffee stained. Really crunchy. I love that sound. Coffee dyed paper. Here's some crochet trim, and that's where that little beautiful pen is. I was going to put one of these in all of the kits. I had purchased enough of those to include in the kits. I love that these have the little space for a date as you journal. More of the ledger paper, and this one I love. It has these signatures. If I remember correctly, I think this was a hotel ledger where people registered in as they checked into the hotel. So I love that. In mine, I put one that had my grandmother's first name is one of the names on the list, which is kind of an odd name. Her first name was Gertrude. I'm sorry, that was her middle name, Gertrude, and she hated that name. She hated it. She would hate me even saying it on video. Meemaw was so dear to me. I miss her so much. But anyway, one of them had a Gertrude somebody, and my grandmother would not have even been alive then. And on the other side, it had my grandmother's husband, her husband's name. My grandfather is Thomas, and one of the names on the other side was Thomas, and I just thought that was so perfect. I love reading all of these names, looking at all these dates. I just love it. But anyway, I love trying to find little things that correlate with my life and putting them in my journals. That's just kind of what I enjoy doing. This is one of those envelopes I was telling you about that I tucked in some of those little pockets. But these were going to be included in the kit. These actually came with those car tag stickers, and I love these. They're like a waxed paper, like vellum kind of style. Y'all know I'm not good with names of fabrics, papers, anything like that. I just kind of fumbled my way through that. I don't know. I just love old and vintage stuff. I don't always know the names of everything. I'm not good with that. This is some fabric that I have that I absolutely love the seam coming down it. Love it. So I kind of hold on to those pieces as I rip my fabric out, and I attached it down the edge of this paper to give this paper more stability, because on the back side I attached a double cabinet card. These things are brittle, falling apart. The little pieces of paper that fall off of them I'm holding on to, and I just randomly tape them to pages and glue them to pages. There is a beautiful little pin on the top of this that looks like a bow, and I purchased enough of these to put in all the kits. So if I do kits, those will be in the kits as well. Again, a double flip out of the cabinet cards that were original to one of these books. And yeah, we're about done with this one. I will very quickly flip through the others just to show a representation in case anyone's interested in purchasing one. This is some beautiful paper, writing paper, and it has the red lines down it. It's vintage but not antique. Another piece out of the ledger from the 1800s, and I believe this one has a date on it somewhere. I'm not sure. You'll see dates on these as we go. 1883. You'll see dates on them as we go, though. look, received $217. Do you know how much money that would have been then? Oh, I love that. Hinged on there. And then this is where I've stuck some of the pieces of the paper as it falls off of the old cabinet cards. I just stick it on the pages just for random personality. That's another double one hinged. And I think we're at the end. So this one is called Vintage, and Vintage will be available, and Vintage is $269 plus shipping. If you're interested, email me for Vintage. And we'll move on now with Pewter. Pewter. I can't even say that word right. Pewter. Pewter. That sounds better, doesn't it? So Pewter has this shield on the front, and there are I'm working on another one that has the metal on the front. I just love them. Love them. Pewter had a little piece of the spine fabric hanging off of the front cover. It was just the fabric portion. So I made this little quilted style spine, outer spine here, and stitched that onto it. And I used some of the grungy metal that I have, and I don't know how well this is going to show up, but y'all, these are glass beads that I purchased. I love them. They look like the earth. They're so, in person, it's like a milky glass with the blue. I just don't know if the camera is going to catch how beautiful these glass beads are. And I only have a few, and I have tried to let them go. I've used them on this one, and I think one other that's not in this video. And then I even attached a couple, because you can actually spin these and look at the different dimension of the colors in them. I love these beads, y'all. They're so beautiful. And then this wooden bead here that kind of correlates with the color of the fabric on this cover. This cover was cleaned, but it was so grungy and dirty that it just had permanent stains on them. And of course I added a little bit to it to cover up the corners a little bit, but I didn't want to actually cover the corners with corner protectors or anything like that, because I wanted them to show. But you can see just how grungy this is. I love that. Now on this one I used some beautiful fabric on the spine, so I used fabric tabs as well to kind of draw the eye to both sides. I can hear my dad waking up in there, y'all. It's early morning, but he's about to wake up, so my household's fixing to get loud and chaotic, so let's hurry up. Hanging out at the bottom of Vintage is a zipper pull that I just thought the metal coordinated and loved it. And then on the top is another zipper pull that says Rome. And then I've threaded some of this thread through there. And I just love the way this one has turned out. Love it. So yeah, this one is about very similar on the inside. Now I did stitch in Vintage buttons here because as I attached these and sewed them through, of course I drilled the holes into the wood, and then I had to attach these with the sewing through and attach the buttons. And then there's some kind of writing up in here. Not even sure what that says. I don't have my readers on right now. Fabric there, ledger paper, coffee stained paper. There is a date there, August 25th, but I don't see a year. Now I apologize for the background noise. It's fixing to get loud in my household. I might end up having to pause the video. The wooden ruler, music paper with a tab. This is a little tuck spot, but it's on parchment paper, so that's not very secure. These are baptismal and matrimonial certificate paper, and there's like places for the pastor and the year. It does say 19, but it is very old. Some coffee dyed paper. This is some of the straw paper that I got from Rachel at Roxy Creations. I think isn't she in Italy, I believe? I'm not sure, but I got this a long time ago from her. Purchased a bunch of it. I love it. I've started making myself use it, and same style throughout, although this one does have more of the laces and everything in it. I believe I did this either as a side little tuck spot, maybe not. I'm not sure, but that is a tabbed index card. I didn't hold the rulers up to these. I'm sorry. I'll go back and do that. I'm just trying to hurry through. It took me a minute to explain some of the stuff. Here's the one of the cabinet cards in this one, and it's hinged on with fabric. Coffee dyed paper. More of the lined paper. This is, again, more of that ledger paper. I still don't see a year on this one. I see dates, I see months, but not a year, but we will see the years. Vintage lace coming down there. Crochet dolly. This is the second signature again. There's a space here where you can see the fabric in between the signatures, and I use some of that fabric right there behind this fabric that coordinates with the spine. Here's the feather in this one. On this one, on this cabinet card, I have attached this metal label on there with this little beautiful cluster. These are going to be in the kits if we go the route of doing up kits. And then I've hinged that on. There is some map fabric there. And then I've hinged that onto a page there. And in mine, just so you know, I've attached some acetate to the back of some of my cabinet cards with glue. You just go in and glue a piece of acetate, put something against the acetate, and then put another piece of acetate on that, and then you can even back it with paper, and it just adds a really cool accent inside of your cabinet card. I'll show mine eventually. I've barely worked in mine very much because I've been so busy trying to create these to get these out there for y'all. This is one of the matrimony papers, and I love the numbers up in the corners. Some of the grungy paper hinged on there. A piece of the eyelet with that little pin. I'm trying to move fast, guys. I'm so sorry. There's some trim there. I want to represent the journal, but I also want to move fast so that y'all are not held up all day. I'm going to try to get this video posted today. Today's Saturday. It's pretty early Saturday morning, but I probably won't have the time before I post it to go in and put the minute marks for each of these, but that is something I'll try to go back and add so that if you're wanting to look at a particular one, I can show you where to fast forward to in the video. There's the other side of that dolly. Little piece of fabric that got stuck to it. A piece of the beautiful lace starts off the third signature. And then there's the card tag that I used in this one, and I think these are the only two I've used in any of these that I am selling today. And then as you flip through, there's the pinafore card. So on this pinafore card, I actually hinged it to one of those envelopes that I had mentioned with the metal on the top. And then I've attached it to this page with a rusty paper clip. So let me let you see the back of that. And then here is another beautiful cameo. If I do the kits, all of the kits will come with, I already mentioned earlier, one of those pins and a cameo. And one of the little bow pins, a piece of crochet trim there. I'm just going to kind of wait and hear y'all's feedback on the kits. I know that y'all probably would be wanting to know price points on the kits. If I include photo album covers in the kits, it's going to kind of drive the price up. So that's another thing I'm kind of back and forth about. Also shipping. Shipping drives, you know, is just it's a necessary expense. I do not mind shipping out of the country either, but I just know shipping prices, they're just going up, and I'm so sorry for that. So these would also be in the kits, but this is the watch crystals, and these have not been opened. It says open here, and I haven't opened them. Now I do have a lot that have been opened, not by me, but I have a whole huge jug of these. As well as a whole drawer unit where all the drawers are full. So I would include, these have watch crystals in them. The watch crystals are beautiful to put over a letter, like on a page, or a little picture on a page. And they're just beautiful to do that. That's where I did put a little fabric there to tab that little flip out. And you should probably do that on every single one of them, just to add personality. Woohoo. Okay. There's that. And then the lace on that one. And there's the back. And so again, this one's called Pewter. Pewter is $2.59 plus shipping. And that's what pewter looks like. Oh, let's hold the ruler up real quick so that you can get an idea of size. So pewter with all the overhang, I'm not going to count that crochet doily because it will fall flat. About 7 1/4 and about 6, maybe 6 1/4. And then as far as how deep it is, it's a good 3.5 inches. Okay. And then let's go back to vintage real quick, and I'll kind of hold the ruler up so you can see on this. It's about 5 1/4. Maybe 5 1/2, and then about 6 1/2 that way. As far as how deep it is, we're looking at probably about 3 inches on that. None of these are what I would call gator mouth. They all lay pretty flat to the width of their spine, but they would be beautiful as a gator mouth as well. Part of the reason why I did the little hangy down there, so that if they do start to gator mouth, that adds a little visual to help pull the eye down to that kind of the waterfall look. Okay, let's talk about lace. I love lace. I think this one turned out so beautiful. So I have used pearl buttons, vintage buttons. Y'all, I had so much fun going through my vintage buttons, and I am so sorry for the background noise, y'all. My dad's just waking up for the morning. So I have used these pearl style vintage buttons with this vintage lace coming through. And again, the whole collaged laces and crocheted pieces on the spine. So again, I apologize for the background noise. As my dad wakes up, he does not breathe very well. He's on oxygen. He has a lung disease. And so as he wakes up, he has to clear out all of his passages so that he can breathe and get oxygen in for the day. So I'm sorry if you're hearing the background noise. It's just part of my household now. So not apologizing for what he's going through at all. Just apologizing if the noise is bothering you. So yeah, the rusty metal on the bottom and the zipper pull on the top. Beautiful, beautiful. So with lace, the cover itself had a lot of damage down the edges, so I've covered that pretty well with the fabrics. And the corners had a little wear, but not too bad considering the age of these. And so that's the outside. Beautiful. Vintage buttons, as I stated. And then coming down the side of this one, I have hung these little pearl style beads that match the buttons. And that's the only 2 I had. And I was so happy to have found beads that actually coordinated with this kind of a creamy, almost a little bit of a vanilla peachy hue to that. And so yeah, they're not like a stark white. And so it was just so nice to find the little pearls that matched them. And that was the only 2 I had. So yeah, they're attached there. They're just kind of tied on. And then I use these vintage buttons on the inside. I chose not to remove any of this or cover it up. You can, if you purchase this journal, you can go in and add paper or fabric across those to cover it, and then just glue this down. That's why I did not attach the edge there in case somebody wanted to do that. So yeah, that's an option. I didn't do it on the back or the front because I wouldn't do it if this were mine. If I'm keeping this, that's going to stay just like that. I like that. But I did use vintage buttons. I have so many beautiful vintage buttons. This has been so fun going through and actually using what I have to make these. It's just fun using things like when I came across ledger paper. There was the one journal, I think it's the one Dee purchased, that said 1884, and then the ledger paper I think said 1871 on it. So just how cool to know that that photo album has ledger paper in it that was from like 1870s, and the photo album was 1880s. And then to actually, I don't know, just to put your hand where somebody had written in them, it's just such a neat thing to me. I just love imagining, you know, people's lives and everything from our past, part of, you know, what's made us who we are today. More of that paper. Here's where I did tuck in one of those little bags into this, where I had left a pocket space on the top of that index card, and the straw paper, the flip out, the metal envelope. Oh, I probably should show what's on this Pinafore card in case anyone wants to purchase this. They might want to know. Here's the little press board, the vintage paper. There's that. This is a piece of vintage upholstery. This is the salvage that's going down the side of some vintage upholstery I have, and I love it. So I use that there. Crinkled up music paper. This is where I have hinged in and added this leather thing that I've shown before. There's the cameo in this one. And then I just grunged up, I added grunged up paper down that just to add interest. It's just, I don't know, a weird little flippy thing because I like to do that. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just what feels right in the moment. And some of the lace trim there. The page number there, I love. This had writing on it to me. This writing does not look vintage. Here, I'll hold it up. They used a pen, which was, I thought, kind of different. But on the back, there is some writing in pencil there. And then one of the car tag stickers where the number shows from the outside. I feel like I'm moving these a lot because they're small. And I want to get all of it in frame. Here's some of the paper ruffle on the side that just adds visual interest. Cabinet card that's been hinged in there with the straw paper, like so. Some eyelet coming down that piece of straw paper. There's the center of that signature. If you'll flip back and watch earlier in the video, I talk about some ideas of placing things in the center of the signature. If I do the kits, I will go through and add that little makeshift tutorial videos that I've done for that. As you know, my process on that. I just hate, I really don't want to put it up because it's really not a tutorial, because like I don't have a camera set up at my drill where I drill the holes. I don't have a camera set up at my sewing machine. All right, there's a date there, 1871. Anyway, it was just more of me talking and rambling about my process. Here's a metal tab on that page with that cluster of the tool with all the little rhinestone pieces that are glittery. They're textured. I love these. Love these. This is a double cabinet card hinged on there. I talk about earlier in this video, if you watch the earlier part, I do talk about how the pieces of the paper on the cabinet cards are peeling off. Glue those to other pages. Don't waste any part. Even the little wax linen thread that I have left on in case you want to attach a signature or attach something to the center of a signature. There's 1882 there. Even those, if you cut that off, snip it off, but save the piece of that and use it to stitch, you know, some. That's what I did here. I used a little piece of the wax linen thread to stitch on these little pins. I removed the pin portion because I didn't want them coming undone. They were not very secure, and stitched that onto the piece of crochet there. Okay, we are about to the end. So 1872. This is all authentic. I did not use any digitals in these. And yeah, that completes the flip through of lace. So there's lace. Lace is $2.89 plus shipping. And then this last one is already sold. So I'm just gonna, for the person who purchased this, I had promised them I would do a flip through so that they could see what they are getting. And so that is what I'm going to do real quick. I don't think that there's, so on this one was missing some of the brads, or whatever we call, whatever we're going to call these. So there, you can tell that in its original life, it had one on every corner. It was missing, I think, 4 of the 8 that it was supposed to have. I was able, there was another cover I had that only had 1, so I was able to remove the 1 and use it on this, giving it a total of 5. But because I didn't have enough to put it on all corners, I left these corners as is. And I love that you can see the original gold where those had been covered with the brads, because these brads were actually over here on this corner. But I used them to attach my leather strips across, and then I left the outer corners empty. and then I used one here and did a little leather loop. And you can always add a string to that with some beads or something hanging out of it, like that. The corners are very grungy. I have kind of stained them a little bit so that they blend in with the cover. And yeah, this is just absolutely stunning. I love this. All of the covers on these may feel tight at first. They will loosen up as you use them. This was very tight upholstery fabric that I used, but it's really old upholstery fabric, and I loved it, and I wanted to use it. So let's just do, I'm just going to flip through very quickly through here. If there's anything different that I haven't talked about in the other ones, I will stop and point it out. That's a little tuck spot there. And then we'll wrap this video up. And yeah, if you want to know what I'm up to, y'all can know that I am going to be working like crazy on these photo albums for quite a while. I did have someone reach out that is really wanting a journal like the flower that I made in my previous video. So as I need a break from the photo albums, I'll probably work a little bit on that style. Again, I don't do custom orders, but this lady wasn't asking for a custom order. She was only wanting one as close to flower as I could get. And so, yeah, I'm going to work on that as I get, you know, needing a break from this little project. That's funny. Not a little project. I have photo albums everywhere in my house, so probably like most of you, my craft room is filled all the way to the hilt with all kinds of stuff. So when I got all of these photo albums, I had no space in my craft room to put them. And I mean, we're talking 75 photo album covers, and I don't want to like throw them in boxes and mess them up in any way. So yeah, they're kind of just, they're sitting all around my house right now. And I'm going to have to do something quickly to move these, whether or not I'm going to sit and make journals out of all of them or do the kits. Ooh, I don't know yet. This has just been a fun project, and I'm calling these a collection of photo albums. So these are the collection of the small photo albums. And there'll be a couple of medium. I think 2 of the medium have already sold, and I'm pretty sure I've only had 4 medium. So so yeah, I'm gonna do some with the mediums, but I'm not even sure if they'll ever make it to video or not. Like I said, I think they're spoken for already. Okay, so we're about done with the end of this one. This one is not available. It is going to ship out today to its owner. Probably before this video can even upload, it'll be gone. The lady was so sweet and patient because I posted this several days ago on Etsy, and she, you know, she bought it immediately, and she was so patient to wait for me to film my video. She wanted to see a flip through of it, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to do a video until probably Saturday, which today is Saturday. Little metal tab there. And anyway, so she was so kind to be patient enough to wait for me to do that. Now this is where there was a page in this, and I folded it down on itself and created, this is what I was talking about earlier, where if you want to add pages to your journal. So I folded this down to just kind of a little nub and used it to attach this this card, this cabinet card to, so that it was attached like a page in the book versus attaching it to a paper. I don't know why I chose to do that one that way. It's just what spoke to me in that moment, which I think that our little intuitions on these things are what we're supposed to be following. And then, yeah, this completes the flip through of this one, guys. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. So this is some of the upholstery fabric, see? And I like to use the back side of it. The front side is beautiful. It's kind of fuzzy. like velour or velvet or something. I like the back side. The back side is grungy and more muted. This is more shiny and bright. Anyway, yeah, so thanks for watching. Y'all have a blessed day, and if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. I'm sorry if I ramble. That's what I do. That's how I enjoy doing my videos, so it will continue to be that way. Yeah, so I will go ahead and post the video, and at some point I'll try to go back and download the actual second, minute, and second spots to each journal, so that when you're trying to just find a particular journal, you can look down and see where to go on the video. And then if they sell, I will put sold beside them. If they don't sell, if you're watching this video in a few weeks and they don't say sold, go over to my Etsy and check out my Etsy. But hopefully these will all have a home. I hope so. If not, then they'll be part of my home. But anyway, y'all have a blessed day. Love you all.